Hi everyone, my name's Dave. I've just received today my Steam controller and my Steam Link, and I thought I'd do an unboxing video for you guys so you could see what you get in the box. I'll go through the Steam Link first because there's not a lot of stuff there, talk a bit about the Steam controller and what's in there, then I'm going to set all this stuff up and do a bit about actually playing games with it all and stuff. So we'll go through the Steam Link first. So I got these today in the mail. These were pre-ordered directly from Valve on the 5th of July this year. So you've got the Steam logo here, picture of the product, some information. You've got HDMI, Bluetooth and the compatibility here, which was Steam Machine compatible, so Windows, OS X and SteamOS Linux. Little Steam Link icon down here. So in the box you get the Steam Link unit. You've got the power adapter, you've got an HDMI cable included and an Ethernet cable included, and then various mains plug adapters. Requires a computer, obviously, Windows 7, macOS 1010 and SteamOS as well. Obviously you need a Steam client. I did get an email from from Valve telling me that it's worth updating your Steam client to use the beta updates. So we'll see how that goes. On the back here you've got picture of the product, and then the sort of very basic setup in your PCs on the network to the Steam Link and to TV or Wi-Fi, you can see here. On the other side we've got link.steampowered.com, link to the web obviously, bit of branding, so that's the packaging. And then inside is the actual product itself. Quite nice packaging in here, quite like the colours. So this is the actual unit, comes in a sort of cardboard sort of shell. Quite a small device, just for scale. I've got a Nexus 5 here, so you can see it's not really too much bigger than a phone really, to be fair. On the top you've got this sort of textured finish, again Steam logo. You've got a USB port here. Come around the back, you've got your power, two more USB ports, your Ethernet, and then your HDMI over here. And then obviously your sort of protective coating. On the underside it's got this sort of sticky rubber foot, so obviously when it goes down it's not really going to move around too much, which is kind of handy. Inside here we've got the quick start guide. This takes you through the setup. Obviously you've got cabled setup, which is the one I'm going to be using, and then you've got your Wi-Fi setup. Streaming over Wi-Fi hasn't worked too well for me in the past, so I'm going to stick with the cabled network. You can see why there's 3 USB ports here. Obviously your controller's probably Bluetooth, but you could connect some extra peripherals here if you chose to. We've also got the Steam product guide. This is sort of health and safety guidance, that sort of thing. In the bottom of the box we've got another box. So this one, if we have a look in here, this has got our power adapters. So for me this is UK, that's the one I'm going to be using. Europe and I think this is Australia. In the front here we've got our power adapter, with the power brick on the end. I assume we can just pull this, yeah, so that we can just, and we'll just put the UK one on there. So yeah, this connects our power. We've got a little power connector in here for connecting that up. Also in here comes with a sort of flat Ethernet cable, which is kind of a bit different. I don't know if you guys can see that. You've got a little, this is actually a flat cable completely, which is kind of cool, a bit different. And then last but not least, probably quite important, you actually get an HDMI cable as well here for connecting this up to your TV. So that's what comes in the box. And then it's worth noting that with the Steam Link you are probably going to need a bit of clearance behind the unit on your telly, because you're going to have Ethernet and USBs and stuff sticking out potentially, HDMIs and stuff. So yeah, so that's the Steam Link. Pretty slick, pretty straightforward, quite small actually, considering it's just going to stream games from upstairs on my gaming rig. I've got a decent rig upstairs, so there didn't see much point in buying an actual Steam box. So that's the Steam Link. So we'll put that over there, and then we'll move on to the one that most people are probably going to be interested in. This is the thing that most people are probably going to be buying, I would imagine. It's a Steam controller. Similar packaging, similar compatibility. So again, on here you've got Windows support, you've got Mac OS support and Steam OS support. So in here you've got the controller, you've got your USB to micro USB, you've got your Bluetooth, and then you get your batteries come included, which is kind of nice. Little controller icon here on the packaging. On the back, nothing too interesting. Got another picture of the product over here. On the top, similar to the other one, controller.steampowered.com web link over there. So if we take this off, so opening this one up, similar sort of cardboard packaging, and this is the controller as it arrives. This, I suppose, is the first sort of consumer model after the developer editions. Sort of an embossed Steam logo here, which is kind of cool. Got a Steam button, options, thumbsticks, pads, and then obviously our buttons here. So if we pull this out and have a look at what else is in the box. So we've got our batteries included already. We've got our little Steam logoed Bluetooth controller, or Bluetooth adapter I should say. And then in here again, quick start guide. So popping in the batteries, connecting up your Bluetooth, and then obviously similar to an Xbox, press the home to sync. The other stuff you get in here, if we pull out this bar at the back of the box, is here we've got our USB to micro USB cable, which you can connect directly to the back of the controller should you need to. And you've also got here the a sort of extension for the dongle. So obviously this can go into here, and then you can put your Bluetooth dongle in the top there. So that's what you get in the box of the controller. So let's talk about the actual controller itself. Feel in the hand, it's quite light. I mean, there's no batteries in here at the moment, but it's quite light. I mean, it's quite sort of plasticky, but it is solid. I mean, if you grip hard and twist, it's quite solid. The thumbsticks are lovely and smooth, or thumb pads I should say are lovely and smooth. There is a click in there which you might be able to hear. It's quite mechanical. You know, it's quite a heavy click. It's not difficult to press, but I think I'd prefer a softer, less audible click on that. You've got the bumpers here, which are, it's very little travel in these. They just sort of click like that. I mean, you can't really press the button as such, which I suppose might be quite good. And then you've got the triggers down here, which have got a much softer click, but they travel all the way to the bottom and then they click, so it comes all the way down and then clicks. And I think because I'm used to Xbox and PlayStation controllers, I think I'd prefer a little bit more resistance in these triggers, and probably a little bit more of a scoop as well. I'd prefer the triggers to be a little bit bigger. The next gen controller triggers are a little bit bigger than these. So on the front here we've got a thumbstick. Thumbstick feels really nice. Again, it's a clickable thumbstick, which is quite nice. Quite grippy, you know, good movement. Xbox style buttons. These buttons, to me, I find these a bit small. Personally, got reasonably, you know, average size hands, I would hope. But I mean, I can press all 4 buttons and cover them completely with one finger, which means that during gaming, you're going to have to be very specific with how you press the buttons. I assume it's just because with this pad and the bottom of the controller, there's not a lot of space to spread these out to make these bigger. So I think it's a sort of a constriction in the size of the actual controller. So short of making this whole space bigger and breaking the symmetry of the design. But I would prefer those to be a little bit bigger. So we talked about the bumpers. We've got our mini USB. So we go to the back, we've got the squeeze triggers here, which are kind of nice. Again, quite audible and mechanical. You know, they're quite mechanical in the way they work. I think I'd prefer a softer click on that. Underside, we've got this little switch here, which if we switch that, the back panel just comes off completely with the squeeze triggers on, and we can see just a bit. And then we've got the batteries down in the side here, and then obviously like the triggers. I think these lock in the batteries to stop them falling out and stuff, because you pop them up into here. So yeah, and then we can place this panel back on there. And that's it really, it just clicks in. It feels like it hasn't because you've got the triggers, but obviously that allows the flexibility. So that's the sort of controller. Comparing it to an Xbox One controller, you can see they're pretty similar. There's a lot more bulk down here, which for the Steam controller works with this scoop, which allows your thumbs to sit on the controller quite well. I've got a PS4 controller as well. Obviously these two are third generation controllers. Obviously this is Xbox One, you've got 360 and you've got Xbox as well. Similar to this has been through a couple of generations as well, so this is still first gen, and these large touchpads obviously are something which none of these controllers have done before, so this is still quite different. So I think getting used to this controller will take a bit of time, same as when I play Destiny with this and I go to play Assassin's Creed on my PC using this. There's a bit of adjustment. You can see what I mentioned here between the size of the buttons compared to these ones. So when you're holding onto a controller like this, you see it's much harder for me to cover all the buttons with my thumb, and it makes them much more, much easier, and I can roll over a bit better. Whereas on this one, I find that it's a bit cramped. I just find it a bit harder to do that. But as I say, you'll probably adapt.